It's just a quick look at what's growing here recently. Peeking in the top of this hang on back, you can see there's a sweet potato with vines growing out of it. They're basically growing up to the ceiling at the moment. And, oh, well, I guess I'm wrong. They're about 1 inch from the ceiling. Otherwise, pretty healthy, pretty happy. One of these hang-on backs is unplugged right now. There was no need for that much flow. This is actually just sitting here because it's waiting on another home to be rebuilt, but you can't really see it. There's a third hang-on back in that area, which is what all of this plant life is growing from. And just lots of stuff. Those of you who have followed me or known me for years would recall that I used to have a 50-gallon, roughly, cube. This is like a 28-gallon aquarium. I don't know exactly, but that's from measurements it calculated a little under 28 gallons, 27.7, I do believe. And there was formerly a 50-gallon Asian, roughly, cube aquarium sitting here on this desk in my foyer for a while. And it had kind of a similar setup. It had a very large hang-on back. Actually, it was probably the hang-on back that's over here. But kind of a similar setup. And, oh, hey, plug for my friends. So there's a photo from Shade Tree Aquatics in Van Buren, Arkansas, which was founded by some of my friends and is currently run and owned by other friends of mine. So shout out to Shade Tree. And yeah, so this is kind of what's going on in my foyer at the moment. I'll give you a little description of this aquarium though. Right now, it's just 2 convict cichlids. There were guppies in here until, a few days ago, and I ended up moving things around. I say a few days, it was probably a couple of weeks back. I refurbed this aquarium, which used to live at my grandmother's house. This was one of the first aquariums I ever played with. It's now soil under gravel, which is kind of a different take on my general setup, which is usually soil under pool filter sand. And this is sort of like a negative scape. It's not escape. It's just a grow space for guppies. It's just a safe place for guppies to be right now. And similarly, on the other side over here, I've got a little zone that's not really escape. This is just a tank that my son and I set up, and it's a grow zone for gup cups. So we will see perhaps in a moment the male guppy that they are patterned after that I'm breeding. And you know what? I just don't see. Oh, there he is. There we go. So that's the male. That's what's going on in here. So I'm going to give a walk into another room and give you some views of other stuff. So this is a 20-gallon tall. Currently it's got sparkling gourami, keely. The keely's hard to find. He hides a lot. There's an orange keely in here and quite a few black mollies. And this tank was harvested from, I guess it was yesterday, so it's kind of clear and bright right now because a lot of the plant matter has recently been removed, like a lot. So I filled one tote with just trim from in here and another tote with red root floater from the top of the tank, and it still looks like I could easily get another large harvest of red root floaters from the top of this. But again, this is just kind of a plain negative scape. It's not really supposed to be an aquascape. It's just a grow environment that happens to have a Buddha in it. And in here is, now it's a black molly breeding zone. It's also Malaysian trumpet snail breeding zone. So I pulled the MTS snails out of here, and I pull plants out of here frequently. And let's get a look at what's going on beside it. 55-gallon super jungle. This one It's no lie, it's probably a month overdue for harvest. I pulled some out of here, gosh, I guess it was yesterday or the day before, but in truth, it's just such a jungle that we're not going to be able to see what's going on in here. So there are a few floaters on top, but mainly this guppy grass is just so bushy. I'll probably pull 2 5-gallon, maybe 3 bins out of there just so we can really see what's in here and what else is waiting to be harvested. But in this tank, there are probably, just at a guess, 150 to 200 guppies, and just can't see what's going on in there. I'm behind on aquatic maintenance, so I'll probably just skip this tank and just tell you there's a lot of stuff in there. It's cool, but there's so much plant matter growing in there, and I'm so far behind on harvesting this one, we're just gonna have to skip it. Here's another little 7-gallon tank. So I showed you one 7-gallon that was out in the other room. That was the one with the orange kind of flame gups that I started with. This is another guppy colony, but similarly, it's got so much guppy grass in it that we can't really see what's going on. But trust me when I say this is a guppy colony, and it's got some kind of interesting stuff. So this is, I mean, it's an interesting zone for sure. Mexican petunia growing up and out of the tank, and whatever, I'll show you. It's the, hi, I didn't clean my mirror and I'm not dressed up or anything. Just trying to get a shot of the tanks while I can, while the kids are busy watching TV. And this little tank is just jamming along. I did a water change on this one and the other one beside it. And I will probably show you a little bit more. This is a little Endler system. This, believe it or not, has been running long term, not with the Endlers, but with snails and other invertebrates that were in here. Prior to the Endlers being introduced, it's been running a year and a half or more, maybe close to 2 years. But I moved the Endlers in because I got some gups that I ended up putting in another system, and I didn't want them to crossbreed. If you've seen any of my shorts or other videos lately, you'll note that this is something that I set up a couple of weeks ago. Red Relay shrimp, deep substrate, soil, under pool filter sand, under plants, underwater, rock on. I introduced some green hair algae into this yesterday, and I mean, these shrimp seem to be fine. I am not feeding them, I'm just giving them clean and clear water and light. Similarly down here, sorry for the reflection there. Yeah, it's just not gonna be any better. Cherry shrimp, slightly larger. This is about 3/4 of a gallon to a gallon. I haven't measured volume. It's just, this is a long-term stable system. It's been going for a long time. Also unfiltered, but fairly deep substrate. You can see the stratification of the substrate, diversity of plants. Moving over, I'm gonna have to pull some things out of the way to show you this, but I generally stack my freshwater jars out here in front of this little Nano system. Now this, I believe, is a 3.5 gallon, but yeah, I don't normally have the best view of this tank because my jars are sitting in front of it, and I move the thermometer to the corner like every day. This is the system that I pulled the Endlers out of, and you can see it's just kind of a lush, rockin', jammin' little Nano aquarium. It's half the size of the aquarium I showed you a moment ago. So this is a 3.5, I just showed you a 7. This has a few of these little gups that came from Aquashella Dallas by means of my friend Gate, and she just brought them to me. She had quite a few others that were breeding and brought me a few samples, and I was happy to get them. So this little tank is just jamming along. It also has You can see back in the back a little stripe of blue over there. It's got two neons that hang out in the back and the bottom. Let me get rid of this reflection there. So yeah, those gups are what's happening in this happenstance. And give you a view of what's growing up and out of the tank as well as I slide my jars back into place. So again, Mexican petunia, some Syngonium, arrowids, a begonia that's like a cane begonia or an angel wing begonia. They do great. And that's the Mexican petunia that I have growing out of several of my tanks. What else is growing up and out of here? I guess just floaters. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna pause and then run into my kiddo's room and show you some stuff in there. So now we're in my son's room looking at his convict tank. Now I haven't recorded anything in this tank for a while because there's a fake plant in here, and I'm just embarrassed about that because this is the throne room of the Arkansas Planted Aquarium Club, and there's a plastic plant in a tank. So having said that, I'm going to remove it because there are plants that are actually thriving in here. But with these convicts, for those of you who have raised convicts, you will note that they dig up everything. So any plants that were growing down in the sand, they have made sure that that was no longer a problem for them, with one exception. That sword that's kind of growing center screen has survived. And the reason for that is I've kind of jammed some quartz stones around the base of it, and it's not really thriving, it's just surviving. So looking, hey Lauren, what's up? So my littlest one, hang on bud, don't shoot the Nerf gun right now. So I'm gonna be running on out of this room pretty quickly to avoid that. But yeah, this is just a look. So again, 29 gallon convict cichlid tank. It is planted. Yes, I cheated there. The reason I placed that there was because these guys were just totally attacking each other and bombarding each other, and I just wanted a little bit more hardscape in here. I don't know if you can count that as hardscape. It's a barrier that made it, just broke up the line of sight. But since then, I've added some plants from other tanks. So a few different Anubias. They don't seem to be able to harm that Anubias, that Anubias, that Anubias. That's actually two. And the Java ferns that you see in there. There's also, what else? Oh, there's an Anubias that's floated up that they have managed to pull loose. I'll have to fix that at some point. Pistia, water lettuce is growing in there, as well as some guppy grass, and that's just, it's what it is. But these guys just, they do a really good job of wrecking plants. So for the most part, as long as I can keep the phosphate levels down in this, the tank is healthy. But plants just don't particularly thrive in here. Even this pothos stem, you see this stem here up? Yeah, they have literally picked it apart, and they keep it picked apart. Now, normally if there was a pothos plant in a tank that's not surviving, I'd be like, well, where are the ram's horn snails? What's eating that? No, in a tank like this, these guys eat the ram's horns, and they just pick stuff apart systematically. So I think we'll give it a cut. This video is running at about 14.5 minutes. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you checking things out as I walk through and do an update and just share what's going on with you guys. I was gonna see if my son had anything to say, but he has now run off. So adios. If you enjoy this sort of thing, give me a like or subscribe, drop some comments. I'd be happy to hear from you. And I'm gonna get back to tropical farming. Allah.